Oh man, it rotated it. Well, that sucks. Okay. I don't think I can fix it now. Now that I'm already live, I can't fix it. So, anyways, hi, my name is Emmy from Emmy Evolving. If this is your first time joining me, thank you for finding me. If this is not your first time, thank you for coming back. So I figured I've kind of been on I've been on such a roll with my thoughts today and the sharing. Okay, here we go. Okay. Ugh, so I have to get up. This sucks. So I'm gonna make this quick because this is just the weirdest shit, dude. Hold on. All right. Ugh, my hair is all wet. Everything's all right. So here goes. We're talking about like toxic relationships, connections with other people, the way gaslighting is often used to try and get you to comply to demands, just some, ugly behaviors. And really, my thoughts are very, very simple. I'm live, baby. I'm live. So, anyways, he's like, okay. So, anyways, um, yeah, there will be people in your life who, for whatever reason, they look at your kindness and your compassion and they kind of see it as like a weakness. They see it as something that can be exploited. And the truth is, it can be if you allow it, if you give permission. But if you don't give permission, it can't be used or abused in that way. What ends up happening is instead you're gifted with an opportunity to decide for yourself whether you want to continue that, learn that lesson in a deeper manner, or you've already learned it enough and you want to move forward. So when people show you their true face, believe them. Okay? Sometimes they'll show you little tidbits of their real face when they want something from you and you refuse to give it. So when they show you that, believe it. Don't make excuses. Don't say, oh, well, they have this or that they're struggling through. It's because of blah, blah, blah. There's nothing spiritual about making excuses for abusive behaviors. There's really nothing spiritual about it. Okay. Hold on. Let me see. There's nothing spiritual about it. What ends up happening, I'm gonna unplug my phone because I can't lay like that. What ends up happening is you end up in your attempt to quote unquote understand what usually ends up happening is you end up making excuses for the behaviors. And when you begin making excuses for their behaviors, you then begin enabling the toxicity. You begin giving permission for you to be the target, the recipient of abusive behaviors. So, I mean, what are you supposed to do if that happens? Do you freak out? Do you have to argue? Do you have to, I don't know, whatever other reactions? I don't think you have to do any of that. I think the healthiest, and I'm not a licensed psychologist, therapist, life coach, or any of that. I'm just a simple person living a simple life. And one of the most healing things that you can do for yourself is just be grateful to them for showing you their real face. Hey, Juice, 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 can you do that out there, please? Thank you. Um, can you do that out there, please? Thank you. So as I was saying, I was getting ready for bed. I thought I was going to be real quick. But as I was saying, one of the healthiest things you can do for yourself is just be thankful that you were shown the truth of who they are and just move forward. Just move forward. You don't have to make excuses for anyone. You don't have to try and find a way to continue to paint them in the kind of light that would make them look excusable, that would make the behaviors excusable, because really some behaviors just aren't. If someone that you have helped, selfishly helped, never brought up or kept tabs on how much you've helped them, then when they come and they tell you, make statements, no one's ever been there for me. Really? I haven't been there for you? Okay. You don't have to be offended by it, but you have to realize whatever you did for them, no matter how much it was, no matter how much you sacrificed, no matter how much you bent over backwards, no matter how much your heart was into it, they didn't value it. And you don't have to be offended. You don't have to be hurt. That's still your contribution to their journey. And if they don't want to recognize that, that's okay. Because you know what? When you help someone, you help people to help people, not for the credit, not for the clout, not so you can have them under your thumb, not because later on they owe you. You help them because it feels right, because it's what feels right in your heart. And so you don't need acknowledgement. You don't need them to validate how much you've done. You know what you've done. You know how much you gave. And so, this girl, come on. Look at this girl. What you want? Why is your diaper half off? But yeah, no, I had someone who I really, for whatever reason, when I had made their acquaintance some time ago, um, they were in a really bad place mentally, emotionally, with their relationship. And for whatever reason, I really felt um, maybe they just need someone, maybe they just need a real friend who doesn't want anything, wants nothing at all. And so in that friendship, I gave and gave and gave with no acknowledgement, no nothing, because I didn't need it. And that was fine. And then more recently, that was like what, a year or two ago. And more recently, this individual came crooked and really was just demanding that I participate in something that was an absolute misalignment with me, my truth. It would put myself and my family in literal harm's way. And I was just very flat about it. Like, no, nope, that does not resonate with me. I will not do it. And then they made the statement, that's fine. I wasn't expecting anything because, no one ever helped me anyways. Oh, okay. That's how you feel. Okay. There's no response needed. That's how you feel. That's your truth. And whether you meant it or not, you said it. So whatever you say, there's some shred of truth in that for you. There is some shred of truth in that. And even if you have, I don't know, whatever psychological issue you want to slap on there to help explain it away, even if you have something, um, the fact is, an angry mind often speaks a truthful something. Sometimes when people are angry or disappointed, they say the things they didn't have the courage to say when they were still busy being polite. So when they say those kind of things, believe them. Believe that that's their stance. Don't believe that that's true about you. Believe that that's their stance. Believe that that's how they see you, how they value you, what place you hold in their life, and move forward. There's no need to prove them wrong. There's no need to argue. You just, hey, okay, you know, okay. You disagree, okay. What's that to me? Do I need to prove something to you? And if you disagree, what does that do? Make you feel hurt? And I think you're toxic. What does that do to you? Nothing. We all have opinions. Every single last person. So if that opinion is something that's toxic to you, what do? Do you continue to just take it? And this is the reason why I respond to individuals when I'm live. Because oftentimes, I'll have people like, oh, it's not worth it, Emmy. Don't, don't even acknowledge them. Don't give them, any of your energy. Oh, I'm not giving energy. I'm making a very clear public display of the fact that your opinion is yours. It doesn't affect my truth in any way, shape, or form unless I allow it. And just because I'm a kind, compassionate, and patient person doesn't mean I'm going to always be quiet. And that's the thing about spirituality. In the spiritual communities, when people are trying to grow their inner under an understanding of themselves and their journey, there's this very common misconception that in order to be spiritual, you have to be a doormat. And I'm sorry, but you don't. You really, really don't. What you have to do is be authentic and true to yourself and your needs. That's what you have to do. If you truly want to be spiritual, if that's your goal, is to rise in your level of understanding, dimensional consciousness. In order to do that, you can't be carrying around the baggage of toxic motherfuckers. You just can't. Because you carry all that weight. How are you supposed to rise if you're carrying other people's toxicity? How do you rise with that? Are you able to rise with that? Sorry. I don't know how to use this with it sideways. So yeah, you don't have to, hold on. You don't have to agree or consent to anything that's not in alignment with you or your truth. You disagree, so do I. You disagree with me, I disagree with you, and now what? Now what? All of a sudden you're mute. You can talk, so can I. You can comment, so can I. And some people would say, oh, that's petty. It's a tit for tat type thing. Well, and sometimes you got to mirror things. You got to speak in the language that people understand, their vernacular. Because, I mean, if you're not going to put things in terms that people understand, you can keep talking until you're blue in the face and nothing gets communicated. They don't understand the gravity of the offensiveness of their behavior. And then there's that school of thought of people who are like, well, if you get offended, then that's you being triggered to look at your own wounds. And it's a mirroring of your own. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. But what if my compassion is what's triggering you to behave like a shithead so that I can be triggered enough to mirror your behavior so you can finally see the gravity of your own fuckery? What about that? I mean, we can dance around this topic for hours. For hours. We can do some verbal sparring for hours and still get nowhere. But the fact is this: I'm going to be who I am. You're going to be who you are. And so what does it matter? What does it matter? Nothing. What do you think about codependency? I believe it's real. I believe that codependency is something that it stems from an addictive personality. And what is addiction? Nothing but a lack of connectivity. At some point in your life, a crucial point, and um, this is not intended to be some sort of derogatory statement or view, but at some point in your life, when you really, really needed to have a confirmation of a solid connection to another individual, you didn't get it. And so it developed pathways within your brain that led to a condition known by the psychological world as addiction. And so as you try and fill that void that was left from that moment in your life, it could be early childhood or whatever. But as you try and fill that void, you look for things to fill it. You feel the void, so you try and fill it. And that's what my personal belief of codependency is. It's a codependency is a form of addiction. It really is. And are addicts bad? No. So let's see. Uh-huh. Keeping their shit under the surface to continue to use you as a garbage can. Yep. Yep, I hear that. People want to do that to you, and will you let them? I mean, really, the only thing that can truly be done to you are things that are allowed. Well, in a spiritual sense, okay? In a spiritual sense, because I can think of different scenarios that would be difficult for someone to understand what I'm saying. But in a spiritual sense, the things that occur in life really are there to help ripen your inner and understanding of your own journey. So when you're faced with a toxic relationship, friendship, work environment, whatever it is, you have to take accountability for your part in the co-creation of that. For me personally, the thoughts um, that really rose up while I was showering a little while ago, this friendship that's done with, I enabled that. I gave so much with no restrictions, no nothing, no conditions, that it really enabled that type of mindset, thinking that you're entitled to unrealistic expectations of me personally. I enabled that. And so now I'm removing myself from that and making it clear, no, that is not okay. No, you don't get to excuse away the way in which you are very disrespectful of me. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in myself because I continued that cycle, because I co-created that with you. And now I'm going to take responsibility for it and remove myself, extract myself. I don't want apologies. I don't want um I don't want to work on anything, you know? There's nothing to work on. You are who you are. That's who you are. That's who you are. Acknowledge it. It's who you are. This is who I am. This is how I react to that type of treatment. And so there's really nothing to discuss. It's like, for whatever reason, there's just this common belief that if someone says sorry, you have to work on it. Work on what? On changing them, on healing them, on making them someone that you believe them to be, regardless of whether that's who they actually are or aren't. That's not respecting sovereignty. It just isn't. The way sovereignty works, um, I'm a sovereign, meaning I am the utmost authority of my sovereign space, my auric kingdom. I am the queen of my auric kingdom. So being the queen, motherfucker, you're not gonna tell me what the fuck to do in my own kingdom. No, I don't think so. But on the same note,
Can a queen go to another person's kingdom and tell them what to do? Shot call things? I don't think so. So, as a sovereign, and I exist with my mental, emotional, spiritual sovereignty intact at this point, I'm not willing to compromise on that. That means I have to recognize other people's sovereignty. That means I'm not going to be trying to convince you you're wrong. I'm not going to be trying to convince you to share my views. I'm not going to try and convince you of anything. I'm going to share my truth, and I'm going to respect however you receive that and whatever you choose to do with it, how you respond. And that's a sovereign. You don't have to agree with me. I don't need your permission. I don't need your authorization. I exist, therefore I am. And because I am, you're not going to tell me what to do. You can ask, you can reason, you can share what's going on that's causing you to lash out because you're hurting. But you guys, there's a difference between unknowingly lashing out because you're carrying a lifetime of pain and just being a self entitled little shit. Huge difference. Huge difference. Learn the difference and save yourself a world of drama. If you can discern the difference between someone who just really never learned any better, they weren't taught by the people who were tasked to help them learn how to function within a society. That's different than you're just entitled. You think I owe you something because I've helped you in the past. You think I owe you something now. I owe you a thank you for helping me to learn that I've once again backpedaled and entered a toxic state. I'm now choosing to remove myself from that. I'm moving forward without you. And when you move forward, this was one of the harshest lessons I've learned in the past year or two. Because for much of my life, once I walk away from you, it's done. I'm not looking back. You no longer exist. Not wishing you harm, but you no longer are a part of my world. I'm done. And it takes a lot for me to get there. So by the time I'm there, that's it. There's no second chance. That's it. And about a year and a half ago, I think it was about a year and a half ago, I walked away from a friendship that I knew on some level it was a toxic one. And I just didn't want to admit it to myself because I was like hurting really badly inside over other circumstance in my life. I was going through a massive ascension cycle and I was kind of in a tailspin. And so basically what happened in this friendship that I'm referencing now, former friendship, we were trauma bonding. That's a nice little term. Trauma bonds. Yeah, we were forming trauma bonds. Bonds not out of genuine connection, but our ability to bleed and have matching blood types. Yeah, that's what it was. We were giving each other transfusions as we bled out. We took turns bleeding out, and that's how we bonded. And not literally, okay? I'm not a cutter. But yeah, no. So that's how we bonded. And when I was done um staying in that mental trauma and I decided it was time for me to heal, I flipped the fuck out. I was like, I'm just going to take some time to myself. I'm going to deactivate my Facebook. So I don't want you to freak out. I'll probably be quiet for a couple weeks. And they freaked the fuck out with me saying that. And here I was thinking I just needed some quiet time to myself. And I didn't realize I was pulling away from a toxic trauma bond. And they knew it. And so when they freaked out like that, that triggered me. I shut that shit down. Block, block, block every platform. And then months passed by. I think maybe even a year passed by. And I began to really explore more of my spirituality. And I allowed myself to be bamboozled into shaming myself over that decision. Like that was such a bichacho move. She didn't do anything. Um, There was no reason for me to really do that. No, tangible thing, no circumstance that happened between us to make me cut her off. It was just this urge, an instinctive, intuitive hit. Cut it off. Clamp that bleeder. Don't bleed out, clamp it. And so that's what I did. I clamped down. And because I allowed myself to believe that my decision, since I couldn't logically understand it, that it was mean, that I was being a bitch, it was unfair. And in order to be spiritual, I had to revisit that and give her a second chance. Boy, oh fucking boy. That was the first time I ever gave someone a second chance at a friendship with me, and the implosion, explosion, assplosion that occurred was epic as fuck. I mean, this girl needs an award for her evilness. And I don't refer to people as evil, so that should tell you something. That should tell you something for sure. And I learned. I learned in the only way I was willing to learn, by hands-on experience through pain and suffering. I learned though. But I'll tell you, I'm not ashamed to admit it took another 4 rounds of that shit with other people, one after the other in succession. Yeah. Ah, someone stabbed me in the back. Girlfriend, could you get the dagger out? Sure, girl, you're my sister. Pull the dagger out, only to wait until I turn around and stab me too. 4 fucking more times. Anyone who calls me sister, mm-mm. Mm-mm. We not cool. I'm just saying, it took me 5 times in 1 year. And people are like, Emmy, these people are so fucked up. All I've seen is you help and bliss and blah, 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 blah. And I can understand that they're genuinely upset because they're witnessing this occur real time publicly. Because I legit, even with my sassiness and badassery, I was cyber bullied 5 times in 1 year, and it wasn't just by one individual 5 times. I'm talking about 5 separate individuals formed 5 separate groups to cyberbully me. Attempt to. You can't bully a bully, motherfuckers. I'm just saying. All you could do is annoy me. That's about it. You can't stop me. You can't derail my growth. You can't keep me trapped in that cycle with you unless I choose to participate. And if I'm not choosing to participate, oh, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time because I'm not going to feed that. How's that look? I'm continuing with my life, continuing to call in my abundance, not just monetary. I'm talking about um, love, support, encouragement. You can't take that from me unless I'm willing to give it to you. You can't take that from me. And so that all of that was really me allowing my environment to mirror. I'm projecting into my environment the toxicity within me. And so now I've learned, hey, you know what? If the circumstance is toxic, yeah, I don't wish you harm, but I gotta go. I gotta go. It's not it's not my place. It's not my job to correct something that's internal. I can keep loving you, but from afar and very silently, because this is not something I'm not giving permission for you to bring me back to that place. I can't join you there. I'm refusing to. And that's okay. They have to be okay with that. Just like you have to be okay with recognizing the limitations of what you can do, limitations of your authority within this life. You have complete authority over your own life, but not over other people's, not even your children. Ain't that some shit? You can't even control your own child, and you're going to try and control a grown ass adult. And parents can go ahead and lull themselves into this belief that they can control their children. you know Fact is, you really can't. If they don't want to comply, they're not going to comply. They're going to have a tantrum. And if you want to show them that you're the boss, that because you're the parent, you want to rule with an iron fist and create fear, well, are they really complying, or are they being coerced? Are they being threatened? Is that what it is? Is that really, you know, is it done out of respect? Is it out of a mutual concern to achieve a mutual goal? No, it's not. It's not. So, this recognition, it extends beyond just friendships and relationships and work. It even applies to my children, this recognition of sovereignty. It's not unheard of if I get frustrated or impatient, I'm like, just do it, please. You know, for one of my children who aren't very old, to be like, what about sovereignty, mom? Okay, well, my sovereignty is requesting compliance from your sovereignty. Because if your sovereignty doesn't comply, then I'm not going to be able to cope very well. And then you're going to have to deal with my shitty attitude. And we all know it takes me a while to get over shitty attitudes. So, for the sake of your day, for the sake of your day, we should probably work together to achieve this common goal, which usually works. You're reasoning with them like, cause and effect. Because of this causation, there's a salty effect, which affects everybody. Well done. So, you guys, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? And what are your thoughts about toxicity? Because I'm witnessing some toxicity in the comments. What are your thoughts? I want to tell you guys this. One of the most effective ways for parasitic behaviors, parasitic beings to gain, coerce compliance is through emotional manipulation. You have to do this because I'm lacking. And I'm going to state this publicly to coerce you into doing as I say, because it's going to make you look like an asshole if you don't. No one's going to be destroyed if you don't get wished a happy birthday. I was going to say happy birthday until there was another comment that was made that really was heavy in the emotional manipulation. And again, I'm not a clinical psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, or any of that, social worker. So if you're needing some emotional support, this really isn't the place. This really isn't the place. It isn't the place. And you don't get to emotionally manipulate the people who are sharing this space with me. It's one thing to request attention, to request acknowledgement. And it's another thing to play on the emotions, the sensitivities of empaths. I see what you did. I felt what you did. And this is the place where shit gets real and raw. Truth comes out. I'm not too PC to not notice these things and speak on it when it needs to be spoken on. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, that's I'm not making a statement about a specific individual at this point, but that is one of the most effective ways a parasitic being can slide right in. Where it's like, oh shit. Oh, there's implications of, shit, if I don't say something that makes me feel like I'm trying to um be supportive, I'm like an asshole. No, you're not. You're not an asshole. You're not. People have birthdays every day. Every day, there are millions of people who are celebrating their birthday quietly and alone. And it's okay. It's okay. As empaths, I am here to be your voice, the voice of your inner self, to let you know you don't have to carry the guilt and the weight of that emotion that someone outside of you is choosing to have within themselves. Am I saying they deserve it? No. I'm saying that is a choice to be there in that moment. And maybe that's what they need to experience right now to help really ripen their understanding of their journey. I don't like people being alone. When people hurt, it hurts me too. But I will not fucking be manipulated. I just won't. And people can see me as a bitch if they want, that's fine. But I will not be manipulated, especially not publicly. I just won't. Because when I allow someone to manipulate me publicly, then it tells all the empaths that witness that I too am obligated to sacrifice myself for the preference of another. And I won't. I will not offer up my brothers and sisters in that Christ consciousness. I will not offer you up as a sacrifice. So, as I give myself permission to separate myself from other people's circumstance, witnessing it frees you to give yourself permission to do the same. Toxicity is toxicity no matter what it is. Start using your empathy to detect when something is toxic. Oftentimes, the most toxic things, and again, I'm not speaking about a specific individual. Oftentimes, the most toxic things slowly get injected into your field without your notice because you are so busy bleeding with them. But are they really bleeding? Who knows? Who knows? Is it fake blood? Is it real blood? Is it self-inflicted? Who knows? Now, if you're really concerned about other people's mental health, emotional health, and safety, and they are making statements that are making it very clear they are a danger to themselves or to other people, kindly encourage them to seek professional assistance from individuals who are trained to properly address their very real needs. And if it's some sort of emergency and you think they're really going to harm themselves, in the United States, there is such a thing as 5150. You call 911 to report a 5150. You are concerned that an individual is a danger to themselves or to others, and give the address of where they're at, and the local authorities will go there for a wellness check. And if it's deemed that they are a danger to themselves or to others, they will be taken into a safe space, a psychiatric ward where they will be observed and administered medication if necessary. You are not a Messiah. You are not here to save people from their own decisions. And there is no shame or guilt about understanding and accepting this. There is none. You're not wishing anyone harm. You're not abandoning anyone. This is something that you have to really, really understand, empaths. You are feeding into toxicity when you do that. It doesn't help them. It really doesn't. Now, does that mean we don't care? No. It means we care enough to encourage them to get help from the people who actually are trained to help. I don't take that I'm going to hurt myself type of statement lightly. And I've had so many people, I've been live streaming for some time now, and I've had so many people use that type of energy and statement to try and manipulate me to get free services. No. If you make a statement like that, you don't need a fucking service on an online live stream. You need medical attention immediately. I don't take those types of threats because that is a threat. I don't take those types of threats lightly. And as an empath, you shouldn't either. It is not your job unless you are medically trained, unless you are licensed to dispense that type of treatment. Recognize you are beyond your pay grade, your spiritual pay grade, and hand it off to someone who is trained for this. Okay? It reminds me of, what was his name? That quarterback for the 49ers. He was just doing far too much. He was a quarterback and then he was a running back, I think. And he was just like, whoa, you all over the place. Young. I think his last name was Young. I don't remember. I'm not into sports. But what ended up happening, he was phenomenal in all those aspects, all those different positions, but he excelled the most. Steve Young, there you go. He excelled the most as a quarterback, but because he was doing all those other things, I mean, the quarterback is the most heavily protected. And he did all those other things and he exposed himself to unnecessary injury. He fucked himself. You see how that is? When you're too busy trying to be the whole team instead of passing the ball to another team member, you end up screwing the whole team. Okay? If you're really concerned someone's going to hurt themselves, call 911. Encourage them to call a suicide hotline. You are not trained to you're not qualified for that. Okay? Seriously. These types of things need to be said because there's too much manipulation that goes on. Anytime spirituality is involved, there's too much manipulation that goes on. There's nothing spiritual about martyrdom. If you're going to martyr yourself to help someone else, that's emotional manipulation. I used to martyr myself a lot. This is how I figured this out. Martyrdom is emotional manipulation because you are self-harming in order to garner the type of emotional response you want from that other person. You want them to see you in a positive light. You want them to want you, to need you. And no, I'm not codependent. I've just always been painfully aware that I don't fit in anywhere. And I wasn't meant to fit in. I was definitely never meant to fit in. I was meant to have differing thoughts, different methods of coping, because the current popular common methods of coping and behaviors are not making people healthy. They're perpetuating unbalanced, unhealthy toxicity. And I finally understand that. So now, no, I will not allow you to manipulate me while I'm live. I will not allow you to manipulate me privately. If you show me that you don't appreciate me, that's okay. I don't need you to appreciate me. I don't take back all the things that I've done for you, but I'm walking away permanently. You don't get another chance to abuse me. Mhm. There you go. That's a very powerful statement. Actually speaking from experience, when I wanted to die every day for a few years, I didn't tell anyone. I hid it well. I was serious though. The one that caused it still don't know what she caused. Mm, that's potent. What really shifted my way of being and thinking, because I used to be like, well, you want to harm yourself, oh my god, where are you, I need to get to you, and totally freak out and die over it as I'm speeding to get to them. But one day I came to the realization, shit, if this person really wants to, they'll find a way. They'll find a way. I can't always be there, I can't stay awake forever. They'll find a way. So instead of me trying to control them, let me just sit down and talk to you. Look, I don't have that kind of power. You hold all the power here. If you really want to exit, I can't stop you. But just know it's going to hurt me. So before you go, please help me to understand how it is that I failed you. Why couldn't I convince you to want to stay? So when you're gone, I can figure out how to cope. So I don't blame myself. So I don't feel as though it's my fault. And that was the turning point. That was the turning point. Like, you don't have that kind of power. You can't tell other people how long they're allowed to live. You just can't. So if they choose to go, that was their choice. And this might come off as cold and, heartless, but it's really the most compassionate thing. Because if you think about it, you're honoring their sovereignty. You're doing what you can. You're helping yourself to understand that you never had that kind of power over them. People have different ways of coping. People have different ways of expressing their lack of ability to cope, and none of that is right, none of that is wrong. It just kind of is part of your journey. And if you're not really serious about it, if you just want attention, why don't you just say that? I don't know why it's so hard for us to just say what we mean. When we're unable to communicate what needs to be communicated, then we become co-creators, co-conspirators of toxic cycles. And maybe it's that toxicity that we need to help us feel alive. I don't know. Sometimes people feel the most alive when they're at the highest risk of dying. And maybe sometimes that's our way of reminding ourselves that we actually are still alive. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I mean, I just am seeing with this Mercury retrograde a lot of toxic cycles, a lot of toxic relationships, friendships, business partnerships, all of that. The toxicity is coming up to be purged, and people are having a really hard time processing. And because I've been purging toxicity for like a year or two straight, I don't know. I think it's like, if we're gonna really be honest, I think it's probably 4 years at this point. Yeah, no, I'm finally getting to a point where it's like these things just need to be said so people can begin having these very honest conversations within themselves. You don't have to have these conversations with other people necessarily, but you do have to talk to yourself and help yourself understand, why are you choosing to cope in the way that you are. hmm So when we say no and turn the other way, how would you suggest dealing with questioning of ourselves afterwards? Did I make the right call, etc.? Um, I think the questioning of yourself is definitely something that needs to occur. I think that questioning for most people is a built-in balancer.
Because when you question yourself, you get the answers that you're needing, the confirmation that, you know what, the decision was made not out of spite, not to be harmful, hurtful, or whatever. Oftentimes, the people who question themselves and who feel really badly for turning away are the people who would never, ever turn away from someone who has actual true need. There's a huge difference between having an actual true need and someone coming to you out of preference. It's a huge difference. And many of us don't realize what the difference is. People who question themselves about, did I make the right call? You probably recognize that wasn't a true need. And you probably, if you look back, you're probably going to be able to point out at least a handful of times when your generosity and compassion were taken advantage of. That's probably your intuition letting you know this is another case of that. Preserve your energy for yourself and those who are in actual true need. So let's see. Christine, yes, we weren't being mean to them. We needed to be kind to ourselves. That's huge, huge. People who are developing their spirituality, oftentimes, when they've had enough and they snap at someone, they're so hard on themselves and they're like, I should know better. That wasn't compassionate. I should have known better. Well, compassionate for whom? For someone who had zero regard over how their words and behaviors affected you, someone who was throwing energetic daggers at you, you needed to show compassion. How about the person you needed to show compassion to was the one that was being victimized? You. Sometimes we have to just speak up. Hey, it's not the most refined, it's not the best worded way, most articulate. It's not the highest level of grace, but sometimes that snap reaction is what's necessary. And it's okay. It's okay. You're allowed to be human. That's the whole point of being here. You're really allowed to be human. Do more questioning beforehand rather than after. Rather than after the fact when decisions are made quickly and without thorough evaluation. I find it usually works out in the end. For the most part, yeah, for the most part. But again, sometimes it's in that snap back, that the truth you are too afraid to share escapes your lips sometimes. So you have to just allow yourself to have grace for yourself, compassion, patience. You can't have it all for just other people. It's just not fair. And if someone is telling you that your behavior is not fair or not right or not compassionate, pause that conversation right there and ask yourself, ask the individual, for who? For you? For me? For who? Not fair for who? Not compassionate for who? And it's in those asking of questions you really start to see the root of the problem. When you start digging, that's where you get to the roots. Let's see. Yeah, we do need to begin consciously choosing to treat ourselves with the highest respect and love and kindness. We really do. We really, really do. Because if you think about it, all of us contain within us a spark that was cleaved from divinity, from the source, from prime creator, from God, from whatever you want to call it. So when you don't treat yourself with respect and love and kindness, that's how you're treating divinity.
And sometimes I read this on a church billboard driving through back roads of Arkansas, but it has stuck with me since I saw it years ago. Sometimes you are the only divinity a person will experience in their life. So, what are you teaching them about the divine? And I was like, shit, that's fucking profound. That is so profound. What am I teaching people about divinity? I'm doing all these nice things for other people, but I refuse to do it for myself. What am I teaching people about divinity, about the truth of love? I work 15, 16-hour days, 7 days a week. And I give away about 70 to 80% of my income. And I live in a broke down RV in a parking lot while I pay other people's mortgages. What am I teaching people about divinity? Not a damn thing. And that's when something shifted. I still live a very simple life, but it's time I begin publicly loving on myself, publicly just having my own back. I still give. I still love. I still work 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I go live on my time off, but I'm not as willing to just take people's bullshit anymore. And you guys, sometimes the most toxic one in your life is you. Let that shit sink in. Sometimes the most toxic one in your life is you. And that doesn't mean you're a bad person. That means there are things within you that are needing your attention. So stop wasting your time and energy looking for other people to heal, because all they are distractions, excuses as to why you are not going to address yourself. Stop being so afraid of what you're going to find in your shadows. You know what I've learned over the past few years? I've been in a cycle of shadow work for like 4 years at this point. The most beautiful parts of me and my heart are hidden in those shadows. Ain't that some shit? Ain't that some shit? The most beautifully raw, real parts of me have always been hidden in those shadows. So stop being afraid of what you might or might not find. Start figuring out where the toxicity is in your life and begin addressing it. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to cut everyone out. Acknowledging toxicity does not mean being a hermit. For some of us, it does, but not for all of us. Sometimes people are just not aware that their behavior is toxic. And you lovingly pointing it out, sharing your thoughts, allowing them to express themselves and actually hearing them, not just pointing fingers, but hey, I noticed there's something going on. You want to talk about anything? Am I doing something to upset you? Because I notice you've been, really on edge. Like when I get in my pissy ass mood, which is often, um, and I get really pissy and very short with my husband, and he's a very patient man. And there's times where he's like, something going on? You've been really short with me today. And just a simple, like, because he puts it in that way, I'm like, shit, I am being an asshole. I'm the toxic one here right now. And that's okay. That's okay. That simple acknowledgement is enough to shake me back into center.
and like, all right, let me stop behaving that way. It's not him that's an issue. I don't know where it's coming from. So let me find where it's coming from and address that. So toxicity cannot exist when there's air. Look at all the different forms of toxicity. What happens when you air it out? When you allow that toxicity to be aired out, it dissipates. Mold, black mold is very toxic. It has to be a damp, dark space for that to grow, for it to thrive. But the moment you shine the light of your truth on it, the moment you allow air, because you're discussing things, not just tossing your dirty garbage, dirty laundry, whatever the damn saying is. Not just that, but you're airing it out. You're opening the windows of your sacred space and allowing air to circulate through conversation. Because air is circulating, that means it's a conversation. It's a dialogue, an exchange of thoughts, not just you vomiting all this toxicity out and someone else taking it in. No, it's an exchange. You share your thoughts, they share their thoughts, you share your thoughts, they share their thoughts. And somewhere in that exchange, you'll find a beautiful middle ground where your thoughts align. And even if they don't agree, they align in such a way that becomes a beautiful rope from which you can climb out of that dark hole with them anchoring you, but only if you choose. So sometimes what needs to happen is just throw them a rope and encourage them to climb. You don't always have to sit there in that dark hole with them. You don't always have to. Sometimes that's appropriate. Other times it's not. Other times it simply enables the perpetuation of that needless suffering. So when people show you who they are, believe them. When they make it clear to you that they don't value you in their journey, believe them. It has nothing to do with your actual worth. It has nothing to do with your actual value. It doesn't. But when you show someone your truth, that's your truth. So when they show you their truth that you are not valuable to them, kindly dismiss yourself. There's that saying, when respect is no longer being served, stop eating at that table. Just saying. Just saying. So you guys, I hope this sharing of thoughts helps you to further ripen your own thoughts, helps you to further understand the connections you have with other people, the ways in which those connections can be modified or cultivated, just all the different ways in which you can really create even more substance to your existence. There's so much that we all need to begin analyzing within ourselves. It's the whole day today has just been a day of introspection, and it's been deep. It's been real deep. And I hope for any of you who are having a birthday today, because I choose to, I want to wish you all a happy birthday. Not because you're lonely and suffering, but because I want to celebrate you. So I hope everyone has a beautiful night. Please give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and join me every single time I'm live. Bye, guys.